So how'd 10.1 go? Hopefully it went good. So I'm going to come back here. So you've watched the 10.2 videos. So I'm going to add them here. This is factoring trinomials. So this is going to be page 18 for us, but we're going to stop back at page 16 again here. So for page 18, we're going to review FOIL and like the vocab for factoring. So tell me how you feel about that. Maybe give yourself a confidence score on this factoring idea. Oops, I made it longer. So 1 to 10, right? How do you feel about all of this? And then we'll come over here to page 18. And I'm going to write factoring trinomials up here at the top. Trinomials. I'm going to flip this around so that it's easier to kind of see. Okay. So, I totally just swallowed that wrong. Oh my gosh. So the first thing that we want to do is a reminder of FOIL, because he kind of says it in the video, and we talked about it. I can't remember where we talked about it, but I know that we've talked about it. Maybe I know. Maybe it was in multiplying the polynomial thing. Excuse me. When you were multiplying binomials, and it looked something like this, right? And it's this idea. Can you see that? Is that okay? Yep, that looks good. Where I'm going to go first, outside, inside, and last. So I'm going to multiply, oops, I totally missed. I'm going to multiply my first terms together, x times x, which is x squared. And then I'm going to multiply my outside terms together. So x times -3 is -3x. Then I'm going to multiply my inside. So positive 2 times x is positive 2x. And then I'm going to multiply my last terms. 2 times -3 is a -6. And then, of course, I can combine those two because they have common terms, right? -3 plus 2 is going to be -1. And I end up with a trinomial. Did I spell that right? Well, I've at least spelled it the same in 2 spots. Okay. So I end up with a trinomial of x squared minus 1x minus 6, or I might say x squared minus x minus 6. So yeah, we've done it this way, right? Where we're multiplying these two things times each other using this FOIL method, and we're getting a trinomial. Basically, factoring trinomials is when we go in the opposite direction. They give us this and we go backwards. So hopefully you've seen that on the video. I think the trickiest thing for me is figuring out what should go here. And so I'm glad that he kind of talked about that a little bit in the video. Just sort of, yeah, I'm glad that they talked about that in the video because it helps. It helped me kind of remember, like, oh yeah, I got to find the things that multiplied together equal one number and added or subtracted together equal the other number. So again, here, let's look at just some. So I'm going to say factoring goes in reverse. So it takes this and you go backwards. So if I've got b squared plus 8b plus 7, first thing I do, right, he said in the video, is to go like that. And I've got b squared, so I know I'm going to have b out front. And then what two numbers times each other equal 7, but plus each other equal 8? So I've got 2 plus 5, nope. I have 3 plus 4, nope. I have 1 plus 7. And then another tricky part for me are the signs. Now these are both positive, so I know that I'm going to have positive plus signs in my factoring. When there gets to be lots of negatives, then I get a little confused. Let's look at an example of that. If I have m squared plus m minus 90, I'm going to start by doing this. I'm going to put my m's out front. And then I have to think, okay, so this is like an implied 1, right? What two numbers times each other equal 90, but when I subtract them, they equal 1. 90. So, oh, you know, 10 times 9, right? Why is that the first one that I thought of? That's handy. And then 10 minus 9 equals 1. Okay, cool. Okay, so I know that 1's going to be 9 and 1's going to be 10. 90's got a whole lot of other factors, right? 2 times 45 and 3 times 30 and 5 goes in there a bunch of times. I don't actually know. How many times does 5 go into 90? Let's look at our calculator. 90 divide by 5. 18. But I don't know, for whatever reason, the 10 just sort of bounced out at me. So now the thing that I have to think about is what combination, because I know that it's going to, my answer is going to end up negative when I multiply them. So that means that only one of them is going to be negative. And it's going to be positive, like I'm going to have a remaining. When I combine my terms up here, right, I'm going to have a positive 1. So I think that means that yeah, I think it does. If I want to have a positive up here, my bigger number has to be positive. And remember, you can always FOIL it out, right? And make sure that you get the same thing. Yep, I'm going to get positive 1m minus 90 and m. It checks out. Sweet! You might also have some weird situations like this. So so x squared minus 4x plus 24. So I've been looking for something that when I times it together, it equals 24, but when I add or subtract them, it equals 4. Can 3 go into 24? Yeah, 8 times 4 times 6, and that's it. Okay, so these all are 24, but then do any of them? No, so that would be 10, that would be 23 if I'm subtracting. That would be 5. So none of them work. So you might end up with something that is not factorable, and that is a completely okay answer. So this one, I can't break it down into, I can't factor it because it just doesn't have anything that works. So that could always be an option. Okay, so go try this in 10.2, and then come back because we've got one other thing in 10.2 to talk about, so I'll see you in a second.